What is going on, y'all? Joe Johnston here from Speaker Scale, the best speaker growth consulting company in the space today. And what I'm going to be walking you through in this video is the different stages that we kind of break down the speakers we work with into, right? So this is LGS training, launch, grow, and scale your speaking business training. I'll be taking you through those different stages, kind of how we categorize those different speakers, and then within each stage, what we sort of find is like the big to dos in that stage, right? The big things that you should be focusing on and dialing in order to get to the next stage and scale to the next level. So let's just dive right in. Launch your speaking business stage. So this is like 0 to 100K a year, right? You are just starting out. You've maybe had a couple paid gigs. You're starting to make some money from speaking, but you're trying to get to that like 100K a year mark, right? So the first thing here that we find is like you got to pick a lane, right? And you got to start dialing in your message to market fit, right? So you got to pick a lane in terms of like who am I going to be speaking to, like what audiences am I going to be reaching out to, and what is kind of my message going to be. When I go to our first 100K a year within my speaking business, it was like the lane we picked was like colleges and universities, and for myself personally, the focus was like personal development, mental and emotional wellness, and then I obviously built our team around that at M.I.I. But you have to pick a lane, right? You have to pick who's your audience, what the problem is that you solve, and really start going hard into that as you start to dial in your message to market fit. Next is you need to have minimal viable marketing assets, content, and speech. What I mean by this is, and this might be controversial, whatever. Um, like you don't have to be the best speaker 0 to 100K. You're not going to be the best speaker when you're just launching. You're getting into this, you're straight off of passion, expertise, just getting into this like minimal viable, like speech has to be good. You have to be worth 3, 4, 5K, which is around what you're charging in this level, 7-ish, maybe 7.5. You have to be worth that. But like you shouldn't be spending a crazy amount of time. You don't have to write the best speech ever. You're not going to be the best speaker. Like your biggest thing right now is just reps. Like you want to be doing like what is it, 5K? You want to be doing like 20 to 25 gigs a year at 4 to 5K. If not, give or take on those numbers. A couple more gigs, a little less, price point. But you want reps to get better on stage and minimal viable marketing assets. I say all the time, like my first demo video and website that got us to 6 figures was disgusting, right? But it's like minimal viable. I'm not putting time and energy into that. What I am is I'm pumping outreach. Like you have to be pumping outreach at this stage and just like find a channel that works for you. For me, early on, it was just cold calls. Like we would just rip into these colleges and universities. That's how I would get in touch with them. And like you're pumping outreach and you're developing your pipeline in a CRM. So you're using a free CRM like HubSpot. You're putting all your positive responses and leads into there and you're developing a pipeline and you're really, really pumping outreach. Brute your way to 6 figures. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, look, like it's like to get to 6 figures as a speaker, it's like, it's pretty simple and straightforward. You know what I mean? Like it's not, I don't know. I hesitate to say it's not hard because it certainly is. But it's like you just like brute your way there, and like anyone can kind of do it. Like if you have a decent message and you just have some hustle, like you can get to 6 figures as a speaker. It's just like just go hard, um and start learning the business and the flow of the business, right? Like start learning the business, how things work, contracts, deals. You're learning different things about the markets, all that stuff. So that is the first stage. So 0 to 100K, that's kind of the first stage, some things to focus on. Grow your speaking business. So this is going to be, 100 to 200K a year. This is where we're really starting to grow. And like, it's a really interesting point because this is where speakers are like starting to kind of pop off a little bit. You know what I mean? And you can see, they're speaking more. You're starting to make some decent revenue from speaking. And it's interesting at this stage because you start to run into bottlenecks, which realizes like it has you realize like you have to start building team. And we'll kind of talk about that. So let's dial in this. So start dialing in your marketing. So here is where you're going to go from that minimal viable to like at this point you're starting to make some cash. You need to start reinvesting back into your marketing. So start dialing in your marketing in terms of like content you're posting. So you need to be posting more on LinkedIn. You need to be posting more content out there, and building your brand, and then up leveling your marketing materials. So here is where you can go and throw $1,000 into your website, $1,000 into good footage at a speech, and getting it chopped up into a nice demo video. Like that's becoming pretty critical at this stage, and you need to start up leveling your marketing materials because you're also going to be getting better on stage and raising your fee, right? As you get better on stage. And part of the, things to raising your fee is really dialing in your marketing and getting really, really solid footage and good marketing material and up leveling that. Um, The other thing that's really critical here is solid follow-up slash long-term nurturance flow. So what I mean by this is like you have started to stack a lot a lot of leads over the past year, 2 years, whatever, in pumping outreach, and you're continuing to pump outreach. There's a lot of leads and people who have responded positively, who you haven't done deals with, or you tried to do a deal with a couple months ago and they fell out. This is where like you're now going from not just like when you start out at six figures, you have no like you don't even know who books speakers. You have no one in your pipeline. Like no one, you've had no conversations, whatever. When you're getting into the growth stage, like you've had a lot of conversations and those deals have hit some of them, but some of them haven't. Some people have responded positively months ago. You tried to get in touch with them, like couldn't happen, timing wasn't right. Like you need to start dialing in your follow up and long term nurturance flow, like really dialing this in. Like there starts to become, 25, 50K a year in just follow up and long term nurturance because you've been stacking that for a couple years in developing the pipeline. Concurrently here, as you know, you're getting to the 150 and you're starting to get up there, your time is starting to become a bottleneck, right? And you start to realize at this stage, like, oh, I can't do everything. And yes, I have a lead gen channel that's working, but like, I'm busier, I'm on the road more, I'm starting to make more money, I don't, like your time is becoming a bottleneck and you need to start looking at hiring a VA, $8 an hour, 10, 15, 20 hours a week, SOPing your lead gen process, whether that's through LinkedIn, cold email, cold calling, whatever, and outsourcing that to a VA. Like you have to start. And this is where we see a lot of our clients get the bottleneck is, they struggle to hire the VA, they struggle to put them into place to kind of manage the systems. But you realize like, oh, I have to do that because I can't spend as the business owner, as the speaker, as I'm getting busier, like I just time that I'm on the road is time that we're not, is time that if I don't have VA, is like the pipeline's not getting worked, and like that can't happen. And so you start to run into like hiring and like building SOPs, and it becomes this whole new deal where it's like, oh, it's like actual business ownership, and a lot of folks start to get tripped up here a little bit and go through a couple VAs, which is fine. Like I went through a million VAs, you know what I mean? But you have to like start investing back into and hiring that person, getting on a flow and all that stuff. And then concurrently, again, you start to run into optimize, outsource, and scale the lead gen channels that are working, right? So, we see a lot of clients at this stage. It's like they're hitting through cold email or they're hitting through LinkedIn. But again, it's like they're in LinkedIn, they're the ones booking the calls. So you have to start again optimizing, outsource, like make that process super smooth, make that SOP like dialed in so that you can just hand it off, train someone, get them up to speed in a couple weeks, in a month, and then look to, scale it, scale LinkedIn, scale, email, because you have someone in there and your time isn't the bottleneck anymore. Cool. Let's go to the scale your speaking business stage. All right. So scale your speaking. This is like 200, 250K a year plus. These are really fun problems to solve, and this is where we work with our clients on a one-on-one basis. It's like, yeah, this is fun, dude. To get to like, 500,000 or a million a year, dude, your business has to be tight. So let's chat about this, right? One is you need to start scaling winning content, and your goal is to outsource everything other than the content creation slash like you being on stage. And that is a tall order to get to, but you need to build team around pretty much everything else other than like creating content slash being on stage and actually fulfilling. Whereas like, a lot of your time is going to be spent, you're going to be on the road a lot. And relationships with meeting planners, right? Like you'll still probably be on sales calls. Kind of tough to outsource that, but scale winning content. So you've been posting consistently. There's going to be content pillars that are working more than others. You need to scale that and just like post more. Like, yeah, post a lot, right? Next, you need to start expanding, scaling outreach channels. So LinkedIn's working, cool. You need to scale LinkedIn. Maybe you start looking at implementing cold email. Maybe you start looking at implementing other types of channels that can work. Also, at this point, you're starting to build up your client base, and so you have to really maximize referrals, spin-off, repeat business. Like those channels, like you need to be, maximizing what we call retention plus multiplication channels, right? Which is going to be spin, repeat, referrals. You need to systematize that and have that down. That needs to be like a fourth of your, you know, uh, business every year. Build team and datatize everything. So here's where you're going to start to really build team. You hire a VA, you start scaling them up from a lead gen capacity. You know, maybe you invest into, some marketing stuff and getting that going to produce more leads. You're investing back into your assets. You really have to have top level marketing materials and brand at this point, because you're going to be raising your fee as well, which we'll chat about. And again, you're building team, datatizing everything so that you can look at the numbers. Maybe you hire someone on the back end from like an EA perspective to help with fulfillment and contracts and that shit, because you shouldn't be dealing with that at 250K plus a year. Um, yeah, and really build team and start datatizing the entire operation. At this level, you need to be nasty on stage, like you need to be 10, 15K plus and just really, really good on stage and a top level speaker, right? The speakers I know doing half a million a year, like they are dialed on stage. And like that is like kind of your main priority other than building team at this stage. As you're building team, you're going to have to release roles. Like that's a whole kind of thing and deal in itself, is releasing roles, letting go, looking at the numbers, making sure that, you're holding people accountable to staying up to KPI, but very, very important. You're also going to start developing assets and building and optimizing your sales funnel. So this becomes like a higher level activity. Like, again, you're top of funnel in terms of fulfilling on the deals, creating content. But the other thing that you can do is be creating like leverage sales assets. Like this right now is going into our community and into our course, but this is a leverage sales asset. It's on our trainings page. And so you should be creating that kind of stuff, blogs, articles, improving SEO, um, moving needle on SEO, looking at potentially investing in that. We'll see some speakers at this level do that. And really, at the end of the day, like bulletproof systems, bulletproof processes, and solid team. In conjunction with obviously hustle, because you're going to be on the road a lot, but that is what you need at this stage to go to the next level, which would be half a million a year. Your business needs to be tight, like everything needs to be dialed. Can you get to that level without being dialed? Yeah, 100%. I know speakers that have been, but like it really needs to be tight. Everything needs to be tight. Like you got to have bulletproof channels. You have to have multiple channels that you're producing leads, whether it's through, obviously outreach channels, maximizing retention and multiplication channels, improving SEO, getting more inbound through there, um, retaining clients, just everything. It just has to be solid. So long-term follow-up nurture, it's like everything's just got to be tight here. So yeah, guys, hopefully you found this valuable. It is the launch, grow, and scale your business stage. Obviously, it's our mission here, and this is who we work with, the different categories. So figured I'd create a training that sort of breaks it down. And yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions.